Hey everyone, Clifton here with CliftonWP, and in this tutorial, we're going to be learning how to build some cool sections using the Gutenberg Block editor for WordPress, and also using a little bit of help from the free plugin Kadence Blocks. This is going to be a really fun tutorial. We're going to learn a couple of different concepts here, and I'm really hoping that you guys enjoy the tutorial. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and get into it. So let's go over the sections that we're going to be building. These are specifically hero sections. Sometimes people like to call these header sections, but basically this can go anywhere on your page. It can be at the beginning of the page or somewhere in the middle if you're using it as a call to action. Most of these are calls to actions, or some of them could be considered unique selling propositions. We have one here which is an opt-in layout for a section that can go in the middle of a page or on a dedicated page by itself. Here's one that's promoting a sale and that you can use to link to a product. And then here's just another one that's just highlighting some kind of benefit. And then this is a duplicate of this first one. And the reason I wanted to show this is because you notice some of the palettes that are used in these make them very attractive so that the specific focus item pops out very well, right? So I wanted to show a different version using some of the colors from the image, which is really the secret to making these really nice, is if you can pull from the image, or if you have a nice palette already that you can use and have good color coordination, you can have a very, very nice section that is attractive, draws the eyes, and basically helps you convert those visitors. So we're going to go ahead and get started on a fresh page, and we're going to build all of these from scratch. Now, just so you're aware of what I am using, I have a install of WordPress in here as well, and the theme that I'm using is the free Kadence theme. So if you go to your dashboard, go to Appearance, Themes, you will see that I'm using the Kadence theme, and it looks like there is an update available. So let's go ahead and update that now so that we're using the latest version. The only plugin that I have installed here is the Kadence Blocks plugin, which is also free. So just go to Plugins, click on Add New, run a search for Kadence, and you will be able to install that Blocks plugin. Now, what the Kadence Blocks plugin does is it just gives us additional blocks, and it helps convert the default Gutenberg Block editor into a much more robust platform. So if you're using Gutenberg just by itself in a basic install of WordPress, there aren't very many options for you to utilize it as a page builder. You can build some things, but this just extends it for us and gives us some additional blocks so that we can actually create much cooler looking sections there. Okay, so that is all I have installed. So now we're going to go ahead and just get started in building out our sections, and hopefully by the time we're done, you'll know how to create really nice sections for your pages. So let's get started. So from your dashboard, go ahead and click on the new and select the page, or you can go to the pages menu item and click on add new. And here we are at our page, and let's just call this hero sections tutorial. All right, and then looks like our page is already set up, but just to be sure, so you know how my page is set up, when you're in the page, just go to this page settings icon here on the right, and a couple things you want to make sure of. We're going to disable the page title so that we don't have that page title at the very top. Then we're also going to set this to a full width page so that our page is from end to end on our screen. I'm going to select the unboxed for the content style, and I'm going to select that the vertical padding is disabled. Then go ahead and save your changes. And then let's just view the page just to be sure. All right, so you should have a blank page just like this. Next, we're going to go click on Edit, and we're going to be back in the editing section of the page. So we're going to create that first one that we saw where we had the model on the right and our text on the left of the item. So from here, this plus sign here opens up all the blocks that are available to you to be able to build out your page. So at the very top here, we have the Kadence blocks. Then we have the default Gutenberg blocks that ships with WordPress. And then below here, we have some design elements, the widgets, any theme blocks, and then the embeds. But we're mostly going to be working up here. So the first block that we want is we want to create a container, and we're going to use the Kadence Blocks version of the container, which is the row layout. So go ahead and select row layout. The row layout that we want for this one initially is we're going to select a full one column row. Okay, so here we are with our one column row. And then do me a favor, click on the plus sign here again and add a second row layout inside of that. So this is our outside row layout. Now we're going to create an internal row layout. This will just give us some additional design options as we're building out our section. So I'm going to select that. And this time I want 2 columns in there. Okay, now if you ever want to find out how your page is laid out, there is this list view of the layout. Just go ahead and click on these 3 dashes up here, and you'll see how your page is laid out. So we have a row section here, row layout on the outside, then a section containing the additional row layout and the 2 sections or 2 columns in the inside of that one. Okay, so if you ever want to navigate to any one of these, you can easily do that by clicking this list view. Okay, so now that we can see how our page is laid out, I'm going to go to this outermost row. This is the row that I want to work on right now. So click on that row, and then right here to the right, we're going to select this cog wheel so that we are in the settings option for this row. So anytime if you ever don't see it when you select the row, that just means you're probably in a different tab. So click on the cog wheel here, and then you'll see the settings for that block. To the left of that is the settings for the page, right? So let's go and select settings for the block. This is what we want. All right, so one thing that I want to do here is I want to be able to see what I'm building. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go to structure settings, and here where it says minimum height, I'm going to increase this a little bit so that let's increase this to about 500. And then I'm going to go to the background settings, and I'm going to give this a background color so that I can see what I'm building. So select the background settings, click on the background color, and we're going to use this color right here from our palette. Okay, great. Now I can see the section itself, right? And we can always adjust this later, but this is just to be able to allow us to see what we're building. Then the next thing that we want to do here is we want to set the alignment of these of the internal columns here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the vertical align, say align to the middle, and now everything here is aligned to the middle. Now also keep in mind that this is also another internal row. So I'm going to go ahead and select that row as well and make sure that those contents are also aligned to the middle. Okay, excellent. Now the next thing that I want to do is if I close this, you'll notice that our columns and our rows stretch all the way across the screen. So what I want is I want this container to be narrow. So I'm going to go back to my structure settings, and from here I want the content max width to be inherited from the theme. Now the content max width of the theme is 1290. So I could either type 1290 in here if I wanted, and you could see here that this is more narrow, or I could just select that I wanted it from the theme itself, which is already 1290. So now we have our row ready for us to start putting in our content, and we're going to be adding images, an image to the right and content to the left. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's start with the image. I'm going to go ahead and click on the plus sign inside of this column here, and I'm going to search for image. Now, the image that actually comes up in this one is the Gutenberg default image, and you could very well just use this. This is perfectly fine, and I already have my images uploaded, so I'm going to go to my media library, and I'm going to find the picture of the model, and I'm going to add them in there. Okay, very simple to do. This is very direct. Now the size is a little big, so I want this to be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to come over here where it says where you get to be able to select the dimensions of this, and let's see what it looks like at 75%. All right, that actually looks pretty good. So I'm going to leave that at 75% for now. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to add our text. So the block that we're going to use here, while we could use a heading text or we could use a paragraph text, I want to use the Kadence Blocks advanced heading text. And the reason why I want to use this one is because it gives me more options to be able to customize this the way that I want. So we're going to select advanced heading. We're going to keep this at an H2. And this is going to be the first piece of text that goes above the main call to action. So what we're going to do here, we're just going to call this, we're going to type make a good point. We're just going to say make a good point. And what I want to do is I want this to be a little bit smaller. So let's make some modifications. I'm going to go to the typography settings here in the short menu, right? We also have settings on this side, but we can use this one just a lot quicker. So I'm going to come here, and the first thing that I want to do is let's set a font family of Poppins. There we go. And then let's set up the weight of this to, we'll leave that to be regular. Let's transform this to uppercase. And then let's make the size really small, like 16, or actually let's make it 18. So 18 is pretty good. And we are pretty much done with this, right? So now this is already set up. Now what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to hit the enter key, and I'm going to add another heading. And you can do that by doing a /. It'll bring up some of the blocks that you've used already, right? And we already have advanced heading as one of the options. So I'm going to select that. And then from here, I'm going to add my big heading. Okay, so here, this is where you can put your unique selling proposition, or whatever they call the action, or whatever it is that you want the user to do. So let's just put in some generic text here. This is your unique selling proposition to your customers. And we want this a little bit bigger font because we want people to see it immediately that they come here. Okay, so now that's looking pretty good. And then the next thing we want to do is put some dummy text. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some dummy text. A good place to get dummy text is just search lorem ipsum in Google. Click on the generator here, and you can just grab any text here. You can generate text here if you want, so I can generate paragraphs like that. And copy. Go back to the page. And from here, I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to do the / again, advanced heading. I'm going to set this to be a paragraph. And then I'm going to just paste in my text. Okay, and this is a lot of text, so let's just reduce this a little bit. All right, there's good. Okay, and then the next thing that we need here is going to be a button, right? So button for the user to click. So click the plus sign, and we can search for a button. We're going to select the Kadence Blocks version of the button, so we're going to use the advanced button here, and we're going to say take action. Now, when you select the button, there are some settings. So we have the quick settings over here, and then we have some deeper settings here on the right. Okay, so one thing that I want to do is just modify it here from the right. So the button alignment, I want this aligned all the way to the left. Okay, and then right here where it says button 1 settings, you can open that up and you'll see more settings for the button. So I'm happy with the font size and the width of the button, but I do want to change the color of the button. So the text color is going to be white. The background color will be this green here. The border, I don't want a border, so I'm going to set this to a 0 transparency so that the border does not show. And that has set up the normal version of the button. Now we're going to set up the hover version. So click on hover. And the text color, I still want that to be white. The background color, though, I would like that to be a lighter green. And the hover border color, we're going to set that to 0. Okay. And the next thing we want to do here is we also want to add an icon. So I'm going to close the button 1 settings. Whoops, no, I didn't mean to do that. Let's open that back up. And I was going to scroll down, and here are the icon settings. So I'm going to click on this here, and I'm going to search for arrow. So I want a really nice arrow. So, whoops. Here's an arrow here, and I want this one right here. And it's positioned right after the text there. You could set this up if you wanted it. So if you want the location to be on the left, you could do that as well. But I'm going to leave that on the right. And that looks really good already. So I'm going to go ahead and save my changes. And let's preview the work. All right, so you can see here how we very quickly were able to create a really nice section. It's clean, it looks really good. Now we're just going to make some additional tweaks so that this looks even better. Okay, so we can see here there's not very much spacing between the image and the text. And there's also not very much spacing here between the row. So let's go ahead and create that spacing, and that will really make your content pop. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit Page. I'm going to select, actually, I'm going to open up the list view here so I can have better selection capability. And the first thing I'm going to select is this section right here. I want this section right here. So right here is that section. And when I select that, it'll give me the options to be able to do configurations to this section. So what I want to do here is I want to create some padding on the inside of this section. So I'm going to go over here to the right. I'm going to look for the padding settings, and this is the right part of the settings. So I'm going to go to here to the right, and I'm going to add 40 pixels. Okay. So I'm looking at the 40 pixels and I'm thinking, that seems a little too much. So let's make that 20 pixels. Okay, that's a lot better. And that looks good. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that way. And then I'm now going to select the image section here, and I want that section. Let's change the alignment of this image. So I'm going to click here, and I want this image to be aligned to the center. So right up here are the settings for the image. Let's go ahead and align that to the center like that. There we go. And that actually looks good. So the next thing that I want to do here is this outside row, this very topmost row here. I'm going to go and I'm going to select the padding and margin for it. So right here, the padding is at 25. Let's go ahead and change this padding to 40 on the top and 40 on the bottom. Update, view the page, and you can see this looks a whole heck of a lot better. Now, the next thing we need to do is we just need to mobile optimize this so that this looks good on mobile. So to get started looking at how this looks like on mobile, we want to first inspect the page from the front end and look at it using the Chrome Developer tool. And the reason for that will become obvious as we start making these changes. So when you, if you right click on the front end of the page and you click on Inspect, and this is using Chrome, you will get this developer tool here at the bottom. This will allow you can see the code behind all your stuff. And you can also see there's a toggle here for mobile devices. So if I click on this, it'll show me what it looks like. And right now it's set to iPad, right? So this is what it looks like on a tablet. And I can change this. So let's say, let's look at an iPhone X, iPhone 10. I know there's now up to iPhone 12, but it doesn't matter. I just need the screen size. Excuse me. I just need the screen size to see how this looks. So if you look here, you can see how it looks, what it looks like on the screen this way. And the reason I like looking at it here is because one of the things, or one of the challenges with Gutenberg, is when you look on the back end here. So if we go to the back of the page, here we are. It looks pretty good. It almost looks similar to what you're seeing on the front end, but there are slight differences that are not as accurate. And I think this is probably something that they're working on. But for instance, if I select the row here that contains these two columns, and over here, if I click on the tablet view, you'll notice that the view looks significantly different than what it will actually look like on a tablet, right? So I'm going to open up a separate tab. If we right click on this, inspect, and looking at it again, let's look at it on the iPad. So you see how this looks, but when you come here, it doesn't look like that, right? This is a little bit more smushed. So you always want to kind of make sure that you're looking at it on as close to an actual device as possible. That way you can see what it really looks like. Because I can see here that I have a little bit more leeway with my fonts than I do over here. Okay. So what I like to do is I'm going to separate this out. So now we can start making our changes. So for instance, the text, I can see that the customer is just moving over to the next side here. So I'm going to come here, select my text. I'm going to make sure that I'm on the tablet setting for this text. And for here, I want the font size. I'm going to reduce the font size to 45. Okay. I'm going to update, and let's see what that looks like here. Oh, I actually made it bigger, excuse me. So this actually needs to be smaller. So let's reduce this to 36. Update, refresh, and you can see now this looks a lot better. And really on the tablet, this looks just fine. So I don't need to make any more changes here. This now looks great. Next, I need to make changes to what it looks like on the mobile phone. So I'm going to click on the mobile phone icon here, and you can get to these settings by selecting any heading or selecting any row. Any row. So if I selected the row itself, okay, I have mobile device change responsive changes editing capability here. So I can select that, and it'll show me what it looks like on the phone. Now, of course, I want to go here to my inspector and make sure that I'm seeing as close to what it should look like on the phone in reality. Because again, Gutenberg could show you something a little bit slightly different. As you can see, there's some slight differences here, right? So on the phone, I'm noticing it looks pretty good on the phone, but we just need to make some changes. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that my text is centered all the way, right? So start with the first heading here, and we're making sure that we're on the mobile device setting here, and I want to go ahead and center that text. I'm going to select the main heading, and then I'm going to center that text as well. I also want this text to be a little bit smaller, so it's just a little big. So we're going to change this to 28. Okay, and then over here, the text looks fine. It's centered. And then the button also needs to be centered. So make sure again that this is on the mobile device setting and that the button is centered on there. And then the image itself, so you see how the image looks a little bit off here. So again, don't believe this one, believe this one, right? So this is how it's really going to look. And if you have a mobile device nearby, just check your phone and you'll be able to see it as well. So that looks fine. So now that we've set this up, I'm going to update my changes, and I'm going to refresh. And we can now see here that everything is now set up quite nicely, okay? Everything looks pretty good. Now, there is one thing we could do here, right? So you notice that on the mobile device, the image is at the bottom and the text is at the top. And that's because of the initial orientation of how we have things here. Okay, so the initial orientation of this, let's actually get back out to the row here. The initial orientation, we have the text on the left and the image on the right. So what's happening here is that this left column is realigning itself on top because it comes first, and the right column comes second. So that's going to the bottom. So let's say we want to rearrange that order. Go ahead and select that column. So we want the inside column here. And if you're not able to get to this column, just go ahead and open up the layout tree, and we're going to select this row. Okay. With that selected, we're going to go to our mobile editing capabilities. And actually, let's go to the one for the phone. Okay. So select the one for the phone. And then what we're looking for is the collapse order. So you will see that right here. If you look at it on the tablet version, you're not going to see that. And on the desktop version, you're not going to see that. But if you go to the mobile version of it, you will see the collapse order, right? And there's even a gutter that goes around these items. So I want to reverse it. I don't want it to be left to right. I want it to go from right to left. And what that's going to do is it's going to shift the image to the top and bring the text to the bottom. And we can update this. And now let's check it out on our inspector. And you can see now everything looks really good. It's already aligned beautifully. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and update this. And you'll notice right here too, the image is on the top. The text is on the bottom. Now, when we go to the tablet, it still aligns correctly. And when we go to the desktop version, it still aligns correctly. And now we have completely mobile optimized our section here, and it is ready to go, ready for you to put on a page, ready for you to put on a page by itself or use as a call to action, and it'll look good on any screen that it is on. Okay. All right, so that completes the build out of our first section. We're going to go ahead and build one more section and then wrap up our tutorial. Okay, so let's build the next section. So if we look at the earlier examples that we had here, we're going to build this one here. This is kind of a nice looking section, and it's very, very easy to build. It's just a couple lines of text and 2 buttons. And then the dividers are creating this really nice effect here where it looks like there is a wave going on with this featured area. So let's go ahead and build this an entirely new page. So I'm going to go to a new page. And what I want to do, I'm going to click on the plus sign here, and I'm going to add my row layout. I want a single column row. Okay. And again, my page settings, just so you know what the page settings are, again, is that we've disabled the page title. We have a full width page layout. Our content style is on box, and we've disabled the content vertical padding so we can have a full clear page to build out our layout. The next thing that I want to do is I want to reduce the width, because even though the row itself is full width, I want the inside container to be contained. So to do that, I'm going to select this block, go to the block settings, structure settings, and I'm going to set the content max width to be inherited from the theme, which is 1290. So now we have a nice little section going on right here. Now, another thing that I want to do is, because if you look over here, I would really like to be able to control the inside width of this. So one thing that's great is even though you're setting this up to be the same size as the width, you'll see later on we may decide to actually change this to be a little bit more narrow. And with that, you do have the ability to set up a much more narrow width by doing a custom content max width. So I could say I want this to be 800 if I wanted, right? So it's just a initial setup for me to do it that way. But as I build this out, you'll see how I can make tweaks to make that a narrower if I wanted. All right. That little sidebar aside, and then the next thing that I need to do for this row is I want to make sure that everything is centered into the middle of the row itself. And then I'm going to give it a minimum height again of 500 just to start. Okay, great. Then the next thing that we want to do is give this a background. So go to background settings for the row, background color, and I'm going to select this color right here. Next, we need to add our text. So I'm going to click the plus sign. I'm going to add an advanced heading. We're going to type our text. I want this text to be centered in the center of the page. I'm going to come here to the typography settings. We're going to transform this to uppercase. And the size is going to be 20 pixels. And the width here, I want the width to be normalized. So you see it's not giving me an option to be able to do that, and that's because you have to set the font style. So the type of font. So we select Poppins again, and now I have a chance to be able to select what weight I want, and I just want the regular weight on this one. All right, then from here I'm going to hit enter and do a /, select the advanced heading again, and on this one I want this to be centered. I want the color to be green. And then we need one more piece of text, which is going to be our lorem ipsum text. I want that to be, I actually want this to be the advanced heading so I can have more options. And then I'm going to change this to a paragraph, and I'm going to center the text, align center. Then the next thing that we need here are the buttons, right? So enter again. I'm going to do a / and I'm looking for the advanced button. Here it is right here. And on this one, same thing. Take action. And I also want an additional button. So let's add another button by clicking the add button here. And when you do that, you get an additional button next to it. And we'll call this one watch video. Okay. So go ahead and add some icons to this. So on this one, on this second button here, select this button. We're going to look for the settings for that button, which is button settings number 2. I'm going to select that. And here I want the icon setting. And we're going to search for video. Perfect. And then the other thing is I want to configure this button to look like just text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the background settings of the button. I'm going to change the text here to green. I'm going to do the border color and make that transparent. And then I'm going to go to the hover section of it and kind of do the same thing. I want the hover text color. I want that to be white because I want when I hover over it, it turns into an actual button. The background color can also be, can remain the same, and the hover border, I'm going to remove that. Okay, and that way when we look at it, it looks like text, but when we hover over it, it becomes a button. See that? Very nice. Okay, and then the take action button. Let's go ahead and style that as well. So the text color is going to be white. The background color is going to be green. We're going to add an icon to it, and the icon we want is the arrow. Let's see here. Oops. Here we go. All right, and that looks good. So we're almost done. The only thing we need to do is, you see this is a little bit wide. So I want this to be a little bit more narrow. So I'm going to go select the outermost row again, go to structure settings. And this time I'm going to turn off the content max width inherited from theme. And I'm going to put in a custom one of 800 pixels. And now this is much more narrow. It's much better. It looks better on the screen. The other thing that I want to do is I also want to increase the minimum height here just a little bit to 600. And we're now going to add our dividers to kind of give it that wave effect. Okay, so to add dividers, make sure that your row is selected. Go to dividers, and we'll start with the bottom divider here. So I'm going to come here, and you have a bunch of options of dividers that you can use. I really like these. So let's see. Let's choose this one. This is our first divider here. And if you look over here, you can see that the height, the height of our divider is at 100, and it's really close over here. So we probably want to add a little bit more padding to the row to accommodate that, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select the row, go to my padding and margin, and at the bottom here, I'm going to make this 125. And I'm also going to do it to the top because we're going to add a divider at the top as well. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to go to the top, select divider, and I'm going to select an opposing divider to give us that wave looking effect. There it is right there. Okay, and then publish our changes. And as we view the page, you can see now we have this really cool effect and really cool call to action. So now we have to do, remember what we have to do? We have to take a look and see how this looks on mobile. So I'm going to go here, click on inspect. And looking at it on mobile, it doesn't even look like you need to do anything. It's already set up for you. All right, let's look at it on iPad. Looks great. All right, and now we can exit out of this. And that concludes building out the second section. You know what? I know I said this was going to be the last one. Let's build one more. Let's build one more because this is actually a lot of fun, and we'll pick one that's really complex, but you kind of get the idea. So let's build one more section, and then we will wrap up the tutorial. Okay, so if we go back to our hero sections example, so why don't we build out this one? So this one is a really fun one because it has a lot of complex things going on, but it's really simple to build. So we've got this overlap happening here, right? So this is a section for like an opt-in or a giveaway or lead magnet, right? So we have the ebook that's being given away here. There's a form for people to be able to opt in, a little bit of text, and we have this overlap happening, and then there's this really beautiful wave divider happening at the bottom, so everything pops out. So we're going to go ahead and build this one out and do it step by step so that you can see how to create something like this on your own website. All right, let's do it. So let's create a new page. So here's our new page that we're going to be building out this on. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and add our structure. So I'm going to add a row layout to this. I want a single column row layout to start. And then within this row layout, I want a double column row layout. So I'm adding a row layout inside of a row layout. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my tree here. And what is this? We don't want this. Let's get rid of that. Okay, I'm going to open up my tree here. I'm going to go to this outermost row layout. Okay. And on this one, I'm going to go to the structure settings. I'm going to set the content max width to inherit from the theme, which will give me 1290 on this particular theme. And then the other thing I want to do here is I just want to set an initial background color so that I can kind of see what I'm doing as I get started here. So I'm going to go to background settings, click on the background color, and I'm just going to select a dark color for now. Okay. Then I'm going to select the inside row, and I'm almost going to replicate the same thing. I want it aligned to align everything in the middle. Okay. And I want the structure settings for this one. We actually don't have to set a structure setting because the outside one will control what's happening on this one. So we can leave that one alone. All right, great. So the next thing we need to do now is actually really, really simple. We need to add our text to this. So if we go back here, it says this book will save your life, so on and so forth. So we're just going to replicate the same exact thing that we have going on right here. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to click on the plus sign. I'm going to select that I want the advanced heading. And for this heading, I want it to say this book can save your life. I know you can't see anything right now. We just need to change the heading color. So I'm going to come here, select white, and now we can see what we're doing. All right, so this book can save your life. And then the next thing we want to do here is we want this to be a little bit smaller. So let's go ahead and configure the typography settings. So we'll come here. I want this to be 20 pixels. I want this to be Poppins. Poppins is just a great font. Poppins. And then I also want to transform this to uppercase. Excellent. Next, we're going to hit enter and / and I want another advanced heading. And I'm just going to change the color to white so we can see what we're doing. And this is just going to be lorem ipsum. So just grab some dummy text. Come back here, put it in there. And then we're also going to configure this actually to be a paragraph, right? So we can change this with the advanced heading for Kadence Blocks. We can make this a paragraph, so it looks like that. Okay, so now when we look at our work, we have some text here. Let's add one more line of lorem ipsum. There we go. Okay, great. So now we have our text. We have our initial text and our second text. Next, if we look at here, we also have a form going on here. So let's go ahead and add a form. Now, Kadence Blocks comes with a free form that you can use as a contact form, or you can use it as an opt-in form. So let's just go ahead and go to open up our blocks here, and we're looking for the Kadence form. So here it is. Go ahead and add that at the bottom. And now we can go ahead and configure our form. So over here on the right are all the form settings. So this is the form here, and this is the form settings right here. And if we look at our form, we have a name, email, and submit. So this is giving us 2 fields and a text field. And I know we can't see the text here, so let me go ahead and fix this so that we can see all the labels. So I'm gonna go here to label styles, label color, and let's make that white. There we go. So now we can see. Now we don't want the message one, so I'm gonna delete that one. We do want the name and the email one. So let's start configuring these. I'm gonna select the name field here, and it will give me the options here on the right. And what I want here is that I want the column width to be 50%. That makes it a little bit small, half the size of this column. I'm going to go ahead and select the email field. I'm going to repeat that right here on the right, column width, set that to 50%. And now they're kind of aligned next to each other, which is exactly what I want. I'm going to select the submit button. I want to configure this button. So on the right here, if we close email settings, there's actually settings for the button. So I'm going to select button styles. And in the button styles here, I want the button width to be full. So it goes all the way across just like that. And we're pretty much done there. I mean, everything here is now set up for us. Looks just like that, right? So very easily, we're already set up. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to set up this ebook section right here. And all this is not an image. I know it looks like an image, but it's actually a section that is made to look like a book, which is a really great way for you to create a nicely optimized opt-in section where the asset that you're giving away is actually part of the website. That way, this can be text, and it's also better for load times. That way you don't have to load another image. take up too much space. Okay, so this is going to be really easy to create for us. So we're going to go ahead and create this part right now. So I'm going to go back here. And what I want to do is see this section right here. Select that section. And the first thing we want to do here is we want to add our heading. So I'm going to click on advanced heading. Let's change the color temporarily here to white so we can see what we're writing. So 10 things. Just gonna put that in there. 10 things. All right, excellent. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and set up the image that goes with this, right? So I'm gonna hit enter, and we're going to let's go ahead and add our image block. So we just want a regular image. We can just type in image here, and from the media library, here's that image that we're using. Add that in there. Now this image is way too big, so we're gonna go here on the image dimensions. Let's set that to 25%. And then here, using this image menu, we're gonna go ahead and align this to the center, just like that. Great, so now we're ready to create the actual ebook section of this whole thing. So what I wanna do is I'm gonna open up my list view here for my layout for this page, and I'm gonna select the section that contains this text, and that's this section right here. And what I want to do, now that I've selected this section actually has its own settings. So over here, we want the background color to be white. And now that we've done that, let's go ahead and change the color of our text to a darker color so we can see it, okay? So now the background is white, the color of our text is now dark. Then the other thing is we also have one more block to add. So let's go ahead and add an advanced heading, and this is by Clifton Esquire. All right, so I'm not an attorney, but for these purposes, this is who I am. Okay, so we're gonna set that up. Go here and we're going to change the text here. So let's just make this Poppins. And that way it makes it regular, and we'll reduce the size to 16. Actually, 20 is better. There we go. Okay, great. So now all our elements are in for our ebook. Now we just need to configure it so that it looks really nice. So what we're going to do to make that happen is first, we're going to start with this section itself. So I'm going to select this section here in my layout tree. And what I want to do is I want to give it a shadow. So we're going to give it a box shadow. And let's just set this blur to 24. And we'll just leave that just like that. We'll reveal that fairly soon. Next is we want to set up the padding, right? Because the padding, everything here is too close to the edge. So we're going to go here to the padding, and I'm going to add 40 pixels of padding all around. Now remember, padding gives spacing within an element, and margin gives spacing outside of an element. So if we're looking at our example here, this outside area would be margin, and everything inside here would be padding. Okay, so but let's go back and finish this out. Okay, so we've added some padding. The next thing we need to do here is we need to also make this a little thicker, right? So if we look here, we can see that this is actually pretty thick. So we're going to grab this, go back to our typography settings, implement our pop-ins, and then from here, let's go with 800. And then we can make our text a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go with 50 pixels. Let's see how that looks. Not big enough. Sometimes you want these to be really big. Too big. 68. All right. And then the other thing is this is a centered text, right? So we're going to make this centered. And then some of this text is highlighted, right? So this is a feature that's available in advanced heading. If we go to here, we see here we have 10 things is highlighted, never do an accident. So we'll come here and let's just highlight the 10 things. Come here and this little arrow right here where it says more, click on that and select highlight. And then never do, same thing, highlight and accident. Highlight. So you notice our highlight is orange, and that's not what we want. So what we're going to do here is just make sure you've selected this heading, go over here to the right, here where it says highlight settings. We're going to go ahead and change that to our brand color. So we're going to make that this beautiful teal. Okay. And our book is pretty much done. Now we need to just configure the row and create the styling that we have here. So we've got this really nice wave happening here, and then there is this overlap that's happening as well. So let me show you how to, first we're going to create the overlap, then we're going to create this nice little swoop here, and then we're going to fix some of our spacing issues that we have here as well. So let's go back here, and first let's deal with the spacing. I'm going to close this out. Spacing. So I'm going to select this section. Actually, let's open it up again. I'm going to select the section that contains the text and the form, and I'm going to add padding to it on the right. So I'm going to come here, padding, right. Let's add 40 pixels. Great. Then the next thing that I want to do here is I also want to I also want to create that overlapping effect. So go back to the outermost row that you have. So the outermost row, we're going to go to background settings, and I'm going to reset this here. And I'm going to go to my background overlay settings. And with the background overlay, I'm going to select gradient. And within the gradient, my initial color is going to be that dark blue color that we had before. Dark blue. And then my second color is going to be this light color. Okay. So now we can see our gradient is coming in. Now, just for the sake of this, I'm going to increase the opacity and make it all the way, remove the opacity. Okay. Now I need to reorient this gradient. So to do that, I'm going to go all the way here to the gradient angle, and I'm going to set this to 90 degrees. So that puts the blue part on the left and the lighter part on the right. Now I'm going to do a really cool CSS trick that's going to allow us to give the illusion that this book is overlaying a column. We're going to create a column out of a gradient. And the way you do that is you go to your first color. See here where it says location and 0. We're going to start increasing this. And you see what's happening there? It's increasing. We're going to bring it till it pushes that other color all the way across. So let's go to about 65. Then the second color also has a location. We're going to start reducing that, and we're going to keep doing it until it's a solid demarcation, a solid line. You see that? So now that gives the illusion that the book is overlapping a columns in the back, right? So if we want to increase this, you can actually move this across a little bit more. And there you have it, okay? So now we have a perfect overlap. We have the book is already set up, and this looks absolutely great. Now, if you want to have a much more narrow book, see here where you have the division in the inner column. So if we select the inner row layout here, we can go ahead and hover our mouse over that division, and we can sort of drag this, and you would have a much more narrow book if you want, okay? So I actually like the more narrow book. It looks more bookish. It's fantastic. Okay, great. So now we have our layout here, and maybe, I don't know, does this look too, we can reduce this text a little bit. Let's go with 64, maybe 62. There we go. All right. Reduce 62. Looks great. Okay, so now we have our text on one side, our column, we have this. Now, what are we missing? We're missing that nice little effect that we had here on the bottom row. So let's go ahead and add that effect now. So I'm going to make sure my outermost row is selected. I'm going to go to my dividers, and here under the divider, I want the bottom divider. I'm going to select that one, and I'm looking for the divider that has some feathering going on towards the end. So that is right here. So we select that. So this is what I mean by that feathering. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but that's what's happening here. So if we look at our example here, that's what's happening here. So we'll come back here, and we've already added our row. We've added our divider. That looks good. I'm going to leave that exactly the way that it is. I love the way it's overlapping everything like that. And I'm going to close this, and I'm going to save my work. And now when you look at it, you see that we have a very beautiful section here for an opt-in. Okay. Now, one of the things that we need to do, we need to make sure this is mobile optimized, right? Because it makes no sense to have this look beautiful on desktop and not have it look good on mobile. So first, let's publish this and let's view the page. All right, here it is. So let's look at how this looks on a mobile device. I'm gonna go ahead and inspect. Sorry, in case you didn't know how to do that, right click on the page from the front end, inspect is the option you select, and then click on the Google Chrome developer tool, click on the mobile icons here, and it'll show you what it looks like on a mobile device. So this is what it looks like on an iPad. It doesn't look very good. Okay, and let's also take a look at what it looks like on a mobile device, on a phone. So okay, what we're going to do is fix that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get out of this. So now let's go ahead and mobile optimize our layout here for tablet and for mobile devices. All right, so now we have it side by side, and now you can see what the mobile view looks like here on a mobile device, and we can see what it looks like on an iPad. So now let's make this look good. So I'm gonna go back to our main editing section here, click on edit page, and let's start with the tablet view. So go ahead and select the background, the initial row, sorry, the outermost row here. Go select that. Then we're going to go to the tablet option. All right. So looking at the tablet option, we can see that our inner row here, the internal row, is a little smushed. So the best thing that we can do here is start to reduce the text. Okay. So first, I'm going to go ahead and select the 10 things text here. Make sure that I'm on the tablet view. I do want to still keep it in the center, but my font size I'm going to reduce. And let's start by reducing it to 30 pixels. That looks great. Then I'm going to leave the image the same. I'm going to leave, actually, yeah, I'm going to leave the image the same. The name here, we're going to reduce that to 16 pixels. Okay, and now that looks pretty good as well. The next thing that I also want to do is on the headings here. We're going to reduce this font size to, let's make this 18 pixels, and the text 16 pixels. And then this we're going to leave the same. So we're going to leave all that the same, and this we're going to also leave the same. Let's go ahead and update our work, and then when we refresh this on our mobile view, you can see now we have a much better view for the tablet view. Now we need to make changes for our phone view, phone device view. Okay, so here in the phone device, we want to accomplish a couple of things. The first thing I want to do is I want this book to be on top, and I want this text to be on the bottom. I also want to get rid of the overlay that we overlay, because there's no need for it now. There's no need to show an overlaying section now, right? So back here on our editing section, we're going to go and we're going to select the outermost row. Now, if you're wondering why I keep selecting the outer row, it's because when I select the outer row, I get to see the responsive options here. So I can select the tablet, and it will give me a tablet view. Then I can go into each element and start making changes as needed. So now that I've selected that outer row, I'm going to select the inner row. Okay. And if you're ever wondering if you're still in there, even if you're in mobile editing responsive view, you can actually select from the layout tree. You can open up the layout tree. So I want to select that internal row. I want to make sure that I'm on the mobile device of choice, which is the phone. And what I want to do here is I want to first switch the order. So here where it says collapse order, I'm going to go from, instead of it being left to right, I'm going to go from right to left. All right, there we go. Now, the next thing that I want to do here is I even want to bring this text to be a little smaller, even more. So I'm going to select the text. I'm going to go to the font size, and let's see what it looks like at 22 pixels. Make it afford a little bit bigger size, 24 pixels. There we go, that looks good. I'm going to leave the image the same. I'm going to leave this text the same. And then I'm going to select this outer row here. And here you can see we actually have settings for a mobile background. Okay, so I'm going to go, since what we changed was the overlay, I'm going to also change the overlay here. I'm going to go to the mobile overlay, set custom background for overlay for mobile. I'm going to go to gradient. Okay, and this time what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make both of these the same color. So my dark blue here and my dark blue here. All right, and then I'm going to increase the opacity to be fully dark. Okay. Then the next thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the bottom, and here I'm going to center all this text. So I'm going to select this heading, make sure I'm on the mobile device, center. Select the text, mobile device, center. And then here where we have our form, I'm going to select the form, so we can actually select it from here. So I've selected the form. Let's add some margin on the left here. So I'm going to add about 40 pixels. Oops. 20 pixels. There we go. So it looks a little bit more centered for us. All right. Now I'm going to go and update this and just take a look at our progress so far. So if I refresh this here, we can see now that our book is at the very top. Here's our text, and here's our opt-in. Clearly shown right here. Okay, so now this looks pretty good. It is completely mobile optimized, and we've covered all of our bases. So now when you're using this in your page, you can be rest assured that whoever is viewing your, let's see here, whoever is viewing your site can see the site just fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and view the page. Here it is. And that looks pretty good, no matter what device you're looking at it on. All right, that's going to do it for us here. We built out more than we intended, but that's okay. I hope you guys really enjoyed the tutorial. Hey, if this is your first time on the channel, please go ahead and do me a favor and like the tutorial. Go ahead and subscribe so you can be notified when we release more tutorials like this. And if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I will be reading those comments and responding. And until then, thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.